We've had Kirk join us. I still have Glenn on the line. Kirk, we were examining the life of Sheol as a prototype, the King Saul as a prototype for this false apostle named Paul, who was given the name Paul. He chose the name Paul. His real name is Shaul. And what we learned in the early part was that by choosing Shaul, Christians by choosing Paul, they were announcing their rejection of Yahweh and total estrangement from him.
Completely.
But at the end, it became clear that Shaul had completely estranged himself from Yahweh as well. And that Samuel continued to affirm this. In fact, if we turn to the 12th chapter, we read, "And then Shamuel said to all Yisrael, Behold, I have listened to your voice and all that you have said to me, and I have appointed the king over you, of course, that you requested. And now, here is the king walking before you. But I am old and gray, and behold, my sons are with you. And I have walked before you from my youth even to this day. Here I am. Bear witness, and yet you bear witness against me. For Yahweh has his anointed." When he says, "Now whose ox have I taken? Whose donkey have I taken? Whom have I defrauded? Whom have I oppressed? And whom hand have I taken, from whose hand have I taken a bribe to blind my eyes? If this has occurred, let it be restored to you." And he's saying, I spoke honestly and truthfully to you. I was never motivated by a bribe. I never took anything from you. And now you have, by contrast, a man who takes everything from you. And he says, "You have and they said, you have not defrauded us or oppressed us or taken anything from any man's hand." And he said to them, and by the way, if you're going to speak for Yahweh, that needs to be universal. Is you don't take anything from anyone if you're going to speak for Yahweh. Excuse me. And he said, "And the Lord," he says, "and Yahweh is witness against you. And he's a witness against his anointed. His witness to this day that you have found nothing in my hand." He is the witness. And Shamuel said to the people, "It is Yahweh who has appointed Moshe and Aaron, and who brought your fathers out from the land of Egypt." In other words, he liberated them. "So now, take your stand, that I may plead with you before Yahweh concerning all of the righteousness of Yahweh's acts, which he has done for you and for your fathers." Don't you want to evaluate? Don't you want to reevaluate your stand, folks? Isn't it time for you to admit that Yahweh has done the right thing by you and that you've done the wrong thing?
By him.
Yeah, by him. When Jacob went to Egypt and your fathers cried out to Yahweh, then Yahweh sent Moses and Aaron, the one who draws out an enlightened free will, who brought your fathers out of the crucible of human oppression and settled them in this place. But they forgot Yahweh, their God. So he sold them into the land of Sisera, captain of the army of Hazor, and into the hand of the Philistines, and into the hand of the king of Moab. And they fought against them. And they cried out to Yahweh and said, "We have sinned because we have forsaken Yahweh. And we have served the," guess what? "We have served the," I think he said there.
Well, I remember something about Baal and Astarte.
You got it. "We have served the lords. We have served the Baals. We have served the false gods and those who would oppress on behalf of false gods. We've served the lords." Wow. We've served the Baals.
On the way.
But now deliver us from the hands of our enemies, and we, will serve thee. Okay, you did all this stuff for us. We turned our back on you. We repudiated you. We told you we didn't want to follow you anymore. We wanted a king. You warned us that the king would plunder us, would take advantage of us, would steal from us, would control us, would take everything good from us, and that we would end up worshiping false gods. And here we are serving the Baals, the lords. But would you forget about all of that? And,
Can we reconsider?
Yeah. We'll serve thee.
That's human nature, isn't it?
Okay. Yeah, right. And I was saying, yeah, right. Yeah, you're desperate now. And so, yeah.
This again.
And then Yahowah and Yaru-Baal and Bindin and Samuel, and delivered them from the hands of your enemies all around you, so that you lived in security. But when you saw that Nashah, the king of the sons of Ammon, came against you, you said to me, no, but a king shall reign over us, although Yahweh your God was your king.
You know, that's almost precisely the situation in which the modern nation state of Israel finds itself.
It is, exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. But I wouldn't go so far as to say just the nation state of Israel, although it's more prominent in Israel, because they are the very people being spoken of here. And that's exactly the state that they find themselves. But that whole diatribe that Yahowah went into to explain, if you choose human leaders, if you vote for your leader and choose a political solution and the military that goes along with it, and the economic depravity that goes along with it, and the religion and false gods that goes along with that, then the consequences are going to be horrific for you. That's the whole world.
Yeah, it is the whole world, but the whole world isn't in covenant, doesn't have a covenant promise from Yahweh.
That's correct. Yep, and so the only people where Yahweh would be your ruler would be Israel. Now, therefore, here is the king with whom you have chosen. Yeah, here's your president. You chose him. You asked for him, and behold, Yahweh has set a king over. He has given you what you asked for. Doesn't that? It strikes me of if you ask to be part of the covenant, you'll be part of the covenant. If you ask to be part of a religion, you're going to be part of a religion. If you want to be political, you're going to be political. God's into free will.
And a choice.
Yeah. You get what you choose.
And yet, when they do, repent, he does, forgive and redeem, and may not be instantaneous glory, but he will, if he was merciful to Nineveh, of all places, how much more will he be merciful to his own covenant people?
Oh, of course. Well, and even to any of us who have come out of being patriotic and political and religious and economically driven and focused. I mean, I'm the poster child for all the bad stuff that Yahweh wants us to leave. There you leave it. He'll accept you. He says, if you will revere Yahweh and will engage with him and listen to what Yahweh has to say, his voice, and you don't rebel against the instructions related to the covenant of Yahweh, then both you and also the king who reigns over you will follow Yahweh, your God. Isn't that what you just said?
Right, and then you end up with the reforms of Hezekiah and stuff like that.
Right, yeah. If you stop rebelling, if you start revering Yahweh, you start engaging with him, you start listening to Yahweh, you stop rebelling against the instructions to be part of the covenant relationship of Yahweh, then everyone, including your leaders, will be following Yahweh, your God. How does one follow Yahweh, our God? I mean, this is follow Yahweh, your God.
Yeah, he has a path.
He does, doesn't he? And he walked that path, didn't he? And it wasn't his path away from the very things that he was condemning, the four things that he was condemning that the king would bring them, which was economic ruin, military ruin, religious ruin, and political ruin, that didn't Yahowah free them from those very things in the crucible of Egypt?
Over and over again.
Yeah, and didn't he walk them so they could follow him through the blazing pillar of light at night and that cloud during the day, so that they could follow him through the wilderness to the promised land?
Can't miss him.
And didn't the path begin at the doorway called Passover?
Mm-hmm.
And wasn't the first day along the way unyeasted bread? Where all of that religious and political and economic and military corruption was removed from them? And wasn't the next step firstborn children?
Yeah, that's a good one.
And then 7 sevens from then, weren't they empowered and enriched with his Torah teaching?
Yeah, so all five benefits are right there.
Right.
Same path.
All right there. That's how you follow Yahowah, our God. The only way you can follow him. It's the only path he ever walked. You can't find him walking another path. Go open the Torah. See if you can find Yahowah leading people at any other time, but in that particular time, starting at the doorway of Passover. That's how you follow him. And if you will not listen to the voice of Yahowah, how can you listen to the voice of Yahowah?
You're reading me Shamar, Torah.
Yeah, right. Recite it, right? And if you will not listen to the voice of Yahowah, but rebel against the covenant instructions of Yahowah, then the hand of Yahowah will be against you, just as it was against your fathers. You know, a hand that can reach down and lift up can also push away, can't it?
Mm-hmm. That's the option.
Yeah. Even now, take your stand and see this great thing which Yahowah will do before your eyes. Is it not the wheat harvest? And it wouldn't be the wheat, it would be the barley harvest. Is it not the barley harvest today? I will call you to Yahowah, that he may send thunder and rain. Then you will know and see that your wickedness is great, and that you have done terrible things in the sight of Yahowah by asking for a king. Then all the people said to Shemuel, a name which means the name of God, communicate for your servants. Now these people were not servants of Shemuel, they didn't serve him in any way. To Yahowah your God, so that we may not die. For we have added to all of our sins this evil by asking for ourselves a king. So Yahowah would say here that, I mean, it's obvious here, that Yahowah is telling us that if we are choosing a government, that we're bringing established militaries upon ourselves, and our sons and daughters will die, and that those militaries will be used to serve those that we elect. He's telling us that if we choose a leader, we vote for a leader, that we will bring upon ourselves an economic system that will be imposed, that will rob us of our means of productivity and of our savings. He's telling us that if we choose for ourselves a political leader, if we vote for a political leader, that we will engage in the worship of false gods. He's told us that if we vote for our leader, that we will be choosing to be defrauded, to be misled, to lose our freedoms, to lose our properties, to lose our perspective, to lose our way, and to ultimately be estranged from Yahowah himself. I would say then that Yahowah, while he is a proponent of free will, he is not a proponent of either democracy or of monarchies, is he?
No, not at I made a list. I don't want to bore you all, but I made a quick little list of 7 things on why you cannot be sane and choose Joel over this. They're just screaming.
Oh, screaming! Go ahead with your list.
Okay. Well, the first thing, which is very obvious, is that Yahweh chose a shepherd in Dode, and Satan chose a lord in Shaul. And you can also
can I just correct you on one thing there?
Sure.
Yet it's true that that Satan's boy was a lord, but keep in mind that it was the people's choice.
Oh yeah. Well,
this is what the people chose.
That's what they want.
That's what they want. They wanted a lord. The people wanted a ruler who would lord over them, who would defraud them, who would impoverish them. Yeah, that's absolutely the case. So, yeah, next point.
Yeah. Well, even when you get to Paul, though, you remember that Yahowah said to Shimon Peres, he said, take care of my sheep. So he's the same emphasis there on the approach of what his role would be versus that of Paul, who later was same thing.
Yeah. You know, it was interesting too. He was talking about the king, and the king was going to put the sons of the people in between his chariots and in his chariots, and have them march out in front off to war. And Yahweh says, no, I'm going to lead you.
Yeah.
You know, if you choose me, follow me.
Yeah.
You know, follow me. I'll provide for you. Follow me.
He didn't say go out in front of me because I'm scared.
No, he didn't. He didn't say I want you to man my war chariots either. He just said, no, follow me.
If you second quick point was every word that David or Dode said, everything that the disciples quoted from Yahowah has value. They prophesied things, and those things came true. I can't find anything from either Paul that is worth quoting or worth certainly the prophecies there. And I know a lot of times it says Saul prophesied, but nobody wrote anything.
And initially, Yahweh said, listen, these are my people. They have chosen to reject me, but I have chosen not to reject them, so I'm going to do my best to enlighten and empower this leader so that he will lead my people well, because I made a commitment for Israel to survive so that I can reconcile my relationship with him. So he tried. And for a while there, Shaul did prophesy.
But when his ego took over, he's got nothing.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, even though he did prophesy for a short period of time, we have none of it.
Well, that was my point, too. I mean, it's nothing that I can find that I can...
No, we don't have none of it.
It obviously had no value because it's in the Torah, and if it did, Yahweh would have made sure it would stay.
Yeah, but the shepherd king, Dode, we have 100 psalms from him, don't we?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So from one, we have a treasure trove of prophetic utterances. From the other, we don't have a word. One was, the shepherd was astonishingly useful. The other man, not so much. Considering Yahweh's advice, and his pretty good advice, after all, he is God. And the fact that he made this advice about the consequence of people choosing leaders, choosing to be religious, choosing to be political, choosing to be support militaries, choosing patriotism, choosing any of these things, choosing to ally themselves with one of the economic schemes. And Yahweh delineates the consequence of all of that. You wouldn't think that monarchies and democracies would be so popular, would you?
I don't understand why we have a president.
Yeah.
I mean, Supreme Court, maybe. But why the rest?
Yeah, but why would the Supreme Court even make determinations based upon a constitution as opposed to the Torah?
That's true.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just really sad what we have done. We are what they became. So there are other things on your list that distinguish? Okay.
Yeah, the next one is a biggie, and I'm doing it with backdrop of the context of if you're trying to choose or you're trying to shake Saul out of your life. I mean, think about these things, because these are right there in front of you on both Sauls. They're both possessed by Satan, admitted.
Yes, by their own admission.
By their own admission, and Dode and the disciples, for instance, by comparison, they are obviously under the influence of the Ruach Kodesh.
Correct.
So this is I mean, you can take any one of these things and say this would be stupid.
Yeah, what side do I want to be on?
Yeah. I mean, so and then
when the guy's named Shaul, that's Sheol. That's the place of the dead. Was the place created for Satan.
Right. Both of them, admittedly, because I was reading last night, both of them are admittedly insane.
Yes. Yeah, both admitted to being insane.
But
most people don't know that Paul admitted to being demon-possessed and insane, but he admitted to both.
And it tells you right there in Samuel that Saul is insane. He's nuts half of the time. When his spirit comes upon him, he goes crazy.
Right.
That's why he's saying to him to calm him down. You know,
right.
So he's admittedly both. You have...
And both were egotistical.
Yes, extremely. Most kings are.
Right.
Most anybody who seeks power. You have on the one hand, you have a father-child relationship. On the other, you have a lord-serf relationship. A king serves the king. Both of them serve the government.
Right. With the father-son, the father-child relationship, you have the father giving to the children to lift them up and to enrich them. And in the king subject relationship, what you have is the king enriching himself by suppressing the people and robbing them. Yes, it's the opposite. Yeah, which one would you prefer?
Yeah. Easy.
Yeah.
Dode means, of course, loved, and he is Yehudim, and we identified both the shows as being Benjamites. So we know they're the wolf in sheep clothing. We know they're deceivers, and they're out to devour you. I mean,
that is correct.
I'll call them a wolf if that's not so.
Right. So which one would you rather be, beloved or one who is devoured by a wolf?
Or the prey. No thanks.
Yeah, the prey. Yeah, which one do you want to be?
I think I'd like to be loved.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've got, when they fight, though, like Dode was fighting against the Philistine, there's a lot like the example you use a lot of the rat. You know, he's trying to clean up his house. He didn't go out and build an army to go out and invade people.
Right.
No, he fought against people who were invading them, who were trying to take their land away or to destroy them.
Right.
Whereas everything else in the kings are always out to go to destroy.
Right. They're covetous. They want more than they can even take from their own subjects. So they want to control more and more. They're never satiated. And so they just seek more and more. And that's why world leaders start wars.
Yeah. So it really breaks down to you want to be under somebody's thumb under politics and religion. You want to be a slave, lose your freedom, or you want to be free in your father's house.
Yeah, and look at Paul. Do you think it's by chance that Paul wrote on behalf of and sponsored, endorsed, imposed the politics and military interventionism of the most beastly empire that ever lived, telling us in Romans 13 that they needed to submit to that government? I mean, what's the difference between people choosing to surrender to King Shaul and surrendering to Shaul's Roman government?
It's the same thing, over and over again. It's just like not to belabor a point. I know it seems like a simple point, but if you read 3 or 4 of these things, I mean, like the possession and if somebody's insane. If somebody's possessed and you know they're possessed, they're claiming to be possessed, and you go by what they claim and and you know they're not following the path of Yahowah, they're definitely following their own, and they want to suppress you instead of free you. What's the big? Why not walk away from
What's the appeal? Yeah, what's the appeal?
Yeah.
When Paul admitted that he was insane, when Paul admitted that he was demon possessed, Why would anyone in their right mind follow him? Particularly, here we have a Shaul leading people away from Yahweh's testimony, not listening to Yahweh and imposing his own will. Well, isn't that the entirety of Paul's letters?
Mm-hmm.
So why would you follow someone that says that Yahweh's Torah, his teaching, can save, and that, but I, Paul, say? Why would anyone in their right mind do that? Particularly if the guy admits that he's insane and demon-possessed.
Yeah.
Particularly when you have this prototype of King Saul, of Shaul, back around 1000 BCE. 1,000 years before, a prototype 1,000 years before Shaul.
So why does anybody paying attention to the Pope?
Right.
At what point
why?
Are you that stupid?
Right. I mean, what's the difference in a Pope and the people choosing for themselves a king?
Nothing. They bow
to lord over them, to take their money, to impose a tithe. Right. What's the difference?
So, I mean, just to me, the more you read it, the more you just go, God, this is so simple. I mean, why I'm so stupid so long?
Why were we so stupid so long? Terry wasn't. She recognized what this was all about. She may have not made the connection between Shaul and Shaul, the wannabe self-proclaimed apostle Shaul and King Shaul, but she understood the rest of it long before we came to understand that this is Yahweh telling us that he is vehemently opposed to the human religious, political, military, and economic systems because of how they deprive people of their liberty, of their direction, of their relationship with him, of their salvation, of their property, of their children, of everything.
Yeah, well, she's quite succinct. She just says, why do you want a king?
Yeah, why do you want a king? Yeah. And by the way, the king, it's interesting that malak and malak, the Hebrew word for messenger and the Hebrew word for king are written almost identically. And so the king that they chose, and Yahweh calling himself a king, the word is almost indistinguishable, malak and malak. Mm-hmm. They're pronounced exactly the same. And malak is a messenger.
Yeah.
So if Yahweh is offering to deliver the message, and that's why he says, listen to me. Well, that's because I'm delivering a message. Pay attention to the walk that I'm leading you on. If you just listen to me as a messenger and my message, you're going to be fine. Mm-hmm. But if you don't listen to me as a messenger, you're not going to be fine. And what did the two Shauls have? They had their own message. In fact, what we're about to get to in this account is this acknowledgement that Shaul did not listen to God, but chose his own way, to impose his own will, to go his own way, and it led to disaster, absolute catastrophe. And so, here is Shaul doing the same thing. Paul is imposing his own way, his own will. But I, Paul, say. Wow. Mm-hmm. And do you ever hear Paul say, you really need to listen to Yahweh your God?
Never comes close.
Never comes close. But what he does say is, you need to listen to me.
Yeah.
He says you ought not obey Yahweh's testimony, but you better obey mine. And that's really what got Shaul in trouble. This goes on to say that, and Shamuel said to the family, do not fear. You have committed all this evil, yet do not turn aside from following Yahweh. If you're unafraid of anything, no matter how, right now they were shaking their boots because the Shaul had really pissed the Philistines off. Mm-hmm. And now they were overwhelming in terms of their chariots and troops against them. And they knew that Yahowah was no longer with them. They were scared spitless, and they said, "Yeah, don't be afraid. You know, if Yahowah was with you, what are 100,000 Philistines? I mean, don't be afraid. Even though you've committed this evil, just don't turn aside in following Yahowah, but engage with Yahowah with all your heart. Don't turn aside."
Don't you think it was fear, though, that motivated them to have a king to beginning with? One of the reasons? Because they talk about we'll have a king, he'll go out and do our battles for us. I mean, that's kind of...
yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it was... No, I think they were in pretty good... They were in pretty good position when before it. I just think that people are always willing to usurp free will. You know, I was in the Soviet Union before the fall of communism, and you saw people that were accustomed to being told what to do. They exercised no free will. And then when communism fell and all of a sudden there were choices, they had no clue what to do with those choices. I think there's a lot of people that don't want to think for themselves, that just want to be told what to do. That's why Animal Farm and Brave New World in 1984, that's why those stories are credible. People acquiesce their free will. This is an interesting statement. After Shamuel tells the people, don't fear. Fear is a bad thing. Don't fear. Even though you've committed evil. You know, once you stop and you start to follow Yahowah, you're fine. Just don't turn aside from following Yahowah. You know, and engage with him with all your heart. And you must not turn aside. Again, turning aside says you don't want to waver from the path. Yahowah said, "Follow me." Yahowah blazed a trail. Yahowah walked the walk. Begins with the doorway of Pesach, and then Matzah, Bakurim, and Shavuah, leading to his home, which is Sukkah. Don't turn aside. So if somebody were to come up with a plan that is a variation of what Yahowah said, if they have 4 spiritual laws that are different than the terms and conditions of the covenant, if somebody has holidays that are different than Yahowah's 7 invitations to meet, would that be considered turning aside?
That's disgusting, is what it is. Beyond turning aside, it's running to the demons.
Yeah, and Yahowah's not saying here, don't go in the opposite direction.
No,
he's saying don't turn aside.
Follow me.
You know, not turning, he's reinforced it twice. Don't turn aside. That means that he's not going to tolerate any alternatives. That close is not going to count here. And, you know, somebody says, well, you know, God certainly wouldn't judge a person who did everything Yahowah asked and just wasn't circumcised. No, it says don't turn aside. He's laid out the path. Well, he certainly wouldn't condemn me just because I never observed Pesach, Matzah, and Bakurim, and Shavuah. Don't turn aside. Well, certainly he's not going to hold it against me that I called him Jesus. Well, certainly he's not going to hold it against me that I celebrated Easter and I worshipped on Sundays and forwent his Shabbat. I mean, don't turn aside. Well, certainly God wouldn't hold it against millions of people who chose to reject his Torah and replaced it with their New Testament.
Well, why shouldn't he?
Well, how could you be further turning aside than the New Testament?
I know this is it's just, you know.
It's so obvious. And you must not turn aside, for then you would go after futile things which will not benefit you, nor will they save you, because they are futile. He's telling you, your New Testament, it's futile. Can't benefit you, can't save you. He's telling you that the rabbinic Talmud and Mishnah and rabbinic Judaism can't save you. Patriotism isn't going to save you. There's no benefit in allegiance to government.
He hates God.
I mean, Yahweh's not leaving anything to doubt here.
No.
There's no way to misinterpret this. If you choose to vary from, to go astray from his Torah, then you're going to go after futile things which cannot benefit you, cannot save you, because they are futile. False hope. That's the whole nature of religion and politics and patriotism. It's all false hope. False hope will lead you astray. It has no benefit. It can never save you.
Yeah, I mean, if you're married and say, well, I don't want to come home at all.
Yeah.
At what point do you have a marriage? You got nothing. So go ahead.
Yeah, that marriage vow, I think I'm just going to change it.
Yeah.
To, I want to love you while it's fun to love you. For the Lord, this is for the Lord, I'm reading my New American Standard. For Yahowah will not abandon or forsake his people on account of his great name. Yeah, here is the New American Standard. For the Lord will not abandon or forsake his people on account of his great name. And they removed his great name and replaced it with Satan's name, the Lord. Now, so many people write and say, big deal. I mean, you think you have all the answers just because you have your own personal pronunciation of God's name. Yeah, I think it's really important. Yeah. Yahweh says that he won't abandon his people for the sake of his great name. So, man, that name Yahweh must be really important.
You might want to spend a little time
because Yahweh has been pleased to make you a people for himself, a family for himself. It says, I am a family for himself. Isn't your last name the same as your father's? Our last name will be the same as our father's.
Our father, yeah.
We bear his name when we are adopted into his family.
Wow.
He's doing all this for his name, which is our name.